Hi, now let's move on to Chapter 9.1. Organizational Change. As for the introduction, change is concerned with making things different, and also known as an alteration of an organization's environment, structure, technology or people. Change may require organizational innovation such as the implementation of a new organizational method in the undertaking's business practices, workplace, or external relation. Lastly, anyone who possesses enough knowledge and power to guide and facilitate the change effort is called change agent. There are 6 important of changes are discussed in this chapter, which are technological advancement, crisis management, adaptation to external environment, organizational culture, customer need, and the economy. 1. Technological advancement. It's a change that results from the adoption of new technology, is common in most organizations. While it can be disruptive at first, ultimately the change tends to increase productivity and service delivery. 2. Crisis management. A change is necessary during crisis and uncertainty. Successful change management can help to avoid crises. 3. Adaptation to external environment. An organization needs to become aware of the external situation and quickly adapt to the changes. This information can be assessed through a variety of sources such as customer and supplier feedback, professional, trade, and government publications, industry associations, and personal contacts. 4. Organizational culture. The organizations benefit from cultural change that results in new ways of looking at customer needs, new ways of delivering customer service, new ways of strengthening customer interactions, and new products that might attract new markets. 5. Customer need. Their needs are consistently evolving. As the world evolves, customer needs change and grow, creating new demand for new types of products and services. 6. Economy. The economy can impact organizations in both positive and negative ways, and both can be stressful. A strong economy and increasing demand for products and services will mean that companies must consider expansion that might involve the addition of staff and new facilities. There are 4 types of change, which are strategic, people, technology, and structure. As for strategic, in theory, all changes in an organization are aligned to the organization's mission and strategy. However, in reality, changes may be difficult to map to strategy or may even contradict it. Next is people. It is divided into the changes in individual and group as well as change in culture. Individual and group changes may seem minor, but taken they represent a critical focus for change management. For example, training is critical to the acceptance of change. On the other hand, culture change refers to changes to the principles, expectations, norms, working habits and symbols of an organization. Culture important to strategic objectives such as productivity, innovation, and compliance. The change in technology comprises of change in process and knowledge. Changes to business process and tasks represent amongst the most common type of change. Many organizations have implemented continuous improvement programs that change processes on a regular basis. Processes also need to change to support new strategies or to leverage new technologies. Change on knowledge supports every program, project, initiative, process, and product. Organizations increasingly identify knowledge as an important asset and target for change. Lastly, the change in structure of an organization. Organizational structure refers to the objectives, roles and responsibilities of departments, teams, and individuals. Major changes such as mergers and acquisitions are considered structural changes. However, structural changes may also be relatively minor, for example the establishment of a small new team. This diagram shows the Lewin's force field analysis model. It is a system-wide change that helps change agents diagnose the forces that drive and restrain proposed organizational change. Driving forces is the factors pushing organization towards change, while restraining force is the employee behaviors that block the change process, which also known as resistance to change. According to Lewin's force field analysis model, effective change occurs by unfreezing the current situation, moving to a desired condition, and then refreezing the system so it remains in this desired state. Unfreezing and changing behavior won't produce lasting change. People are creatures of habit, so they easily slip back into past patterns. Therefore, leaders need to refreeze the new behaviors by realigning organizational systems and team dynamics with the desired changes. The first step, unfreezing, occurs when the driving forces are stronger than the restraining forces. This happens by making the driving forces stronger, weakening or removing the restraining forces, or doing both. The second step, change, involves learning. This stage entails providing employees with new information, new behavioral models, or new ways of looking at things. The purpose is to help employees learn new concepts and points of views. The last step will be refreezing. The desired patterns of behavior can be nailed down by changing the physical structure and situational conditions. Feedback mechanisms help employees learn how well they are moving toward the desired objectives. No company today is in a particularly stable environment. Even those with dominant market share must change, sometimes radically, because of these 6 specific forces of change. The first force of change is the changing nature of the workforce. Almost every organization must adjust to a multicultural environment, demographic changes, immigration, and outsourcing. Next is change in technology, as it is continually changing jobs and organizations. The emergence and growth of social networking sites have forced organizations to continually update and innovate to keep ahead of the change. Third is economic shocks. For example, due to the pandemic, the housing and financial sectors recently have experienced extraordinary economic shocks, leading to the elimination and bankruptcy. Other than that, competition is changing. Competitors are as likely to come from across the ocean as from across town. Successful organizations will be fast on their feet, capable of developing new products rapidly and getting them to market quickly. Social trends don't remain static either. Consumers who are otherwise strangers now meet and share product information in chat rooms and blogs. Companies must continually adjust product and marketing strategies to be sensitive to changing social trends, as Liz Claiborne did when it sold off fashion brands, de-emphasized large vendors such as Macy's, and streamlined operations and cut staff. Finally, the change in world politics also stimulates change in organization. We've seen a major set of financial crises that have rocked global markets, a dramatic rise in the power and influence of China, and dramatic shakeups in government across the Arab world. Throughout the industrialized world, businesses, particularly in the banking and financial sectors, have come under new scrutiny. These elements are the foundation of the 6 most cited reasons why people resist change. First, negative valence of change. Second, fear of the unknown. Third, not invented here syndrome. Fourth, breaking routines. Fifth, incongruent team dynamics. And lastly, incongruent organizational systems and structures. The first element is the negative valence of change, which means that employees tend to resist change when they believe the new situation will have more negative than positive outcomes. In other words, they apply the rational choice decision-making to estimate whether the change will make them better or worse off. Next is fear of the unknown. The organizational change usually has a degree of uncertainty, and employees tend to assume the worst when they are unsure whether the change will have good or bad outcomes. Uncertainty is also associated with lack of personal control, which is another source of negative emotions. Furthermore, the not invented here syndrome happens when employees sometimes oppose or even discreetly undermine organizational change initiatives that originate elsewhere. This not invented here syndrome is most apparent among employees who are usually responsible for the knowledge or initiative. For example, information technology staff are more likely to resist implementing new technology championed by marketing or finance employees. As for breaking routines, people are creatures of habit. They typically resist initiatives that require them to break those automated routines and to learn new role patterns. And unless the new patterns of behavior are strongly supported and reinforced, employees tend to revert to their past routines and habits. Other element is incongruent team dynamics. It develops and enforces conformity to a set of norms that guide behavior. Norms may discourage employees from accepting organizational change. For instance, organizational initiatives to improve customer service may be thwarted by team norms that discourage the extra effort expected to serve customers at this higher standard. Lastly, incongruent organizational systems are the rewards, information systems, patterns of authority, career paths, selection criteria, and other systems and structures are both friends and foes of organizational change. When properly aligned, they reinforce desired behaviors. When misaligned, they pull people back into their old attitudes and behavior. This table illustrates the 6 elements in resistance to change in organizations. The first strategy is communication. It is the highest priority and first strategy required for any organizational change. Communication is necessary to generate the urgency for change. Leaders motivate employees to support the change by candidly telling them about the external threats and opportunities that make change so important. The second way that communication minimizes resistance to change is by illuminating the future and thereby reducing fear of the unknown. The more leaders communicate details about the vision as well as milestones already achieved, the more easily employees can understand their own roles in that future. Secondly, learning is an important process in most organizational change initiatives because employees need new knowledge and skills to fit the organization's evolving requirements. Learning not only helps employees perform better following the change, it also increases their readiness for change by strengthening their belief about working successfully in the new situation. Third is employee involvement. This strategy is almost essential in the change process. Employees who participate in decisions about a change tend to feel more personal responsibility for its successful implementation rather than being disinterested agents of someone else's decisions. Fourth is stress management. Organizational change is a stressful experience for many people because it threatens self-esteem and creates uncertainty about the future. Stress management minimizes resistance by removing some of the negative valence and fear of the unknown about the change process. Next strategy is negotiation. It is a form of influence that involves the promise of benefits or resources in exchange for the target person's compliance with the influencer's request. However, negotiation usually produces employee compliance with, rather than commitment to, the change effort, so the strategies described earlier on minimizing resistance tend to be more effective in the long term. Lastly, if all else fails, leaders rely on coercion as part of the change process. Coercion includes a range of assertive influence behaviors such as persistently reminding people of their obligations, frequently monitoring behavior to ensure compliance, confronting people who do not change, and using threats of punishment, including dismissal, to force compliance. That's all for Chapter 9, the Organizational Change. Thank you.